Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Certified Educator Program's second live webinar session called Getting Started with CK-12 Adaptive Practice and Assignments. I'm Katie, one of the CEP program managers, and my colleague Lindsay and I will be running today's webinar.
We are thrilled to have so many participants from all around the world joining us on our first day of live sessions for the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. Once we get a few days into our program, we'll be able to get to the core webinar content right away. But since this is just the first day, we do want to do some reminders about our program and to help get you situated for the summer. So bear with us if you've already seen this in the on-demand videos or if you were with us this morning. We do want to just take a second and make sure everybody's getting comfortable with our program. So all of you who are looking to join the ranks of CK-12 certified educators, here's how you're going to do it. You need to watch 2 mandatory on-demand sessions. We launched the first on-demand session on Monday, July 1st. If you have not watched that session, which has 5 short videos as part of it, please make that a priority. It answers a lot of the questions we've been receiving in Q&A. This morning, a lot of the questions were addressed in the on-demand session, so if you're able to watch that as soon as possible, I think that would be helpful as you proceed with the program. The second on-demand session is going to be released at the end of our live sessions, and that's called Beyond the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. And you will have until July 31st to complete all assignments related to those sessions. So we've got the on-demand ones, and then next you need to join us for 5 or more live sessions. If you need to register for more sessions, you can do so at any time on our program page. Next, you'll need to complete the accompanying assignments to go with all sessions. We're calling them assignments, but we've built them on our program system that calls them quiz. So just know that we're kind of using assignment and quiz in the same way. They mean the same thing for our program this summer. And then lastly, you will complete a final form to request your certification, and then you will be CK-12 certified.
So once in the program Flexbook, you can access any session by expanding, backtrack. Let's talk about the class first. So we've sent you a few emails about this program. If you haven't gotten this, or if you joined in the last 10 minutes since I sent a welcome email, you can join our class using the class code 8TZWP. Do that by clicking on classes, and then you'll see a plus sign if you're logged in as a teacher, or a join a class if you're registered as a student, and that class code will get you in there. When you join the class, under the shared resources, you'll see our program Flexbook, and that contains all the content and assignments. So once you get into that, for that first on-demand session and assignment, you can access any session by expanding the content in the table of contents on that main page. For the Certified Educator Program and CK-12 overview, you can watch the 5 short videos that Lindsay referenced, and all sessions contain the resources and assignment questions. Now, those questions are written out in text in that lesson, and you're going to want to go through those and make sure you have answers to all of them before you click the start button, because that does not save your progress as you go through. So we've written all the questions in that core text so that you can go through, make sure you have all your answers, and then when you're ready to start and just record those in one shot, then click that start button. Once again, Lindsay said it's labeled quiz in our system, and you can begin that assignment. When you're done and you get your report, because you kind of saved your work, submitted it to the system, you're going to want to close out of your report and then click Turn In on the main lesson page. This changes the bar at the top, that's that nice teal bar that says this is currently assigned to you, from that Turn In option, and then notes that you have turned in the assignment. It notes your score when you turned it in. And if you want to take it again at any point, you can take it up until the due date and turn it in again. You can see your progress on these assignments under Reports. There you'll see both the percentage score that you turned in last and the date that you turned that assignment in. Now, don't worry if you don't get 100% on your assignment. We are testing out a new open response question type in our system just for this program. And we've tried to include a variety of potential answers, but you may occasionally be marked incorrect for an answer that was actually acceptable. So just know that we're testing it out with you. Those questions aren't in our regular practice. But if your score is dramatically low for this particular program, you're welcome to take it again and turn in your quiz again. In general, we're going to grade on a very generous curve. Our intention is that you explore our site and find resources that are useful for you, and not that you achieve perfect scores. And so all of this stuff that I've been talking about, it's in that on-demand session, it's in the welcome email. Don't worry about kind of working your way through all of that right now, but we just want to bring it up if you missed that or are looking and trying to figure out those pieces.
Okay, another thing that I think would be helpful to point out is that we've created a resource page for each webinar session, and you can find it at the tiny URL listed on the screen right now, or you'll be able to find it in the program Flexbook as well. We'll also put a link for this resource in the chat window. Don't feel like you need to do anything right away. That link will always be there for you. You can download it to your desktop. In the future, you'll know that these resource pages exist, and you could print it out before you attend a session if you're the type of person who wants to write some notes in the margin and that helps you out. They're just 2 pages that have some, it's your cheat sheet for what we're going to be covering today. So use it as you would like. So Zoom is our platform for the summer, and I think you guys are starting to get the hang of our 2 different windows. We have one window that's labeled chat, and that's the place where you guys are typing in, your name, where you're from, what you teach. That's kind of my favorite part of broadcasting a webinar is we love it here in the room in Palo Alto, California, when we say broadcast and we get to, see all of the comments flooding in of where you guys are from. We've got people from Brazil and Melbourne, Australia, and the Ukraine, and Philippines, and Nebraska, and Indiana. So thank you everybody for taking some time out of your summer to join us and do some professional development. That says a lot about the type of educators you are. So keep all of that conversation going in chat. That's, again, the community conversation window. When you have questions for us, for the team that you want us to stop and answer, please type them in the Q&A window. We have Star and Felix here who are going to be typing answers to questions, and then Katie and I will be stopping throughout the presentation today to address others that come up. If there are any technical difficulties, you can just let us know. But I think with that, we're gonna start with today's content.
Thanks, Lindsay. So in today's webinar, we're going to cover the following topics. We'll start by talking about CK-12's adaptive practice system. So our intelligence system has over 150,000 questions in it, and it adapts to students by challenging them with harder questions or giving them recommended resources. We'll then move into CK-12 classes, creating and managing classes within the CK-12 platform, along with the features there such as sharing content, hosting discussions, making assignments, and more. This will be super helpful for all of you guys who are in a CK-12 class this summer. And finally, we'll talk about assignments and reports. So assigning practice and other modalities, as well as seeing student work, including answers, the levels of questions, and the time spent. So I'd like to launch a poll right now to find out a little bit more about your experience with adaptive practice and assigning modalities. So you'll get to see 2 questions there. The first question asks how familiar you are with our practice tool. So please let us know if you are new to practice, you've used practice occasionally, or you use it frequently. And if you've also customized practice into a quiz, feel free to choose that option as well. The second question asks about the number of different types of modalities that you might have assigned, whether that's through CK-12 classes or through a learning management system like Google Classroom, Schoology, or Canvas. So please feel free to choose all that apply if you've assigned more than one. And I'm going to pause for a few seconds to let you guys finish answering this poll.
While they're working on that, I do want to point out that several people posted in the chat that it is winter where they are. And I'm sorry, we keep referring to this as the summer program because it's summer here in sunny California, but we do recognize that it's winter and some of you are having weather. A question in the Q&A is, will this be recorded if the weather is interfering with your connection? And yes, we are recording this webinar and it will be posted within 24 hours. All right, how's that quiz looking?
So it looks like we've got most of you. We'll give you maybe another second or two to finish wrapping up. We just kind of want to get an idea of where you guys stand so we can work from here. So I think with that, we'll probably end this poll right now. And then we're going to share those results so you guys can see that most of you are new to practice, which is perfect because you are in the getting started with practice session. For those of you guys that have used it somewhat or maybe even started to customize it, we are going to talk about some of the newer pieces that are involved with navigating and finding assessment on our system. And we definitely recommend that all of you guys check out the customizing session as well. And then in terms of modalities, it looks like there's a scattering of different resources that people have assigned, but a bunch of you are brand new and haven't made assignments. So once again, there will be options for all of you guys, and we hope that those of you that are brand new will get a good introduction. As Lindsay said, we will record this, so if you miss stuff or we go through something to kind of give you that brief intro, you can always go back and reference our resource page or this video to help you kind of go from there. So with that,
awesome. I'm glad to have so many beginners because that's what this session is all about. You might know that we have 2 sessions on adaptive practice this summer. This is the first one that's just about getting started with adaptive practice and assignments. In this session, this is what you're going to be able to do by the end of this webinar. You're going to be able to find and assign a Flexbook 2.0 lesson with adaptive practice. You can find and assign individual modalities, including interactives, videos, and real-world applications. You can create a new CK-12 class or make changes to an existing one. You can find detailed per question feedback on students' completed work, and quickly see class-level reports with a heat map of student progress and skill.
Now, for those of you who will be taking customizing CK-12 adaptive practice and assignments, we're first offering that this Wednesday, so come join us then. And these are the types of things we're going to cover in that more advanced session. So we will be covering customizing practice into quizzes, settings for quizzes, adding concepts to that quiz, kind of a bunch of different options in terms of selecting and reordering questions, new questions, our math editor, all of those pieces, as well as kind of using those quizzes in 2.0 Flexbooks as inline questions in a lesson, and then also assigning quizzes and seeing student reports for them. So if you want additional help with any of these skills right now, or with their integration with learning management systems such as Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, and Edmodo, please be aware that this Getting Started webinar is going to focus first on the basics. So we're going to prioritize questions related to the basics during this webinar. We will stay on as always to address any complex customizing questions or other questions that need a live demonstration or more in-depth answers, but just know kind of how we're choosing to prioritize questions as we go. So with that, let's move into adaptive practice.
Okay, we are really excited about our adaptive practice system here at CK-12. And just a reminder for those of you who are new to CK-12, we are a nonprofit and everything we offer at CK12.org is free. You will never hit a paywall, that we do not charge for anything. So everything you're gonna see during this presentation today is available for you. We just ask that you sign in so our intelligent system can track your progress and your work. So let me just, take that off the table right now. Everything is free. So hopefully you're gonna see something that you're excited about today. Our adaptive practice system has over 150,000 questions covering math, science, and spelling. We offer questions at 3 levels, and they adapt to student performance. We offer content when a student is struggling, and our adaptive practice questions can be customized into quizzes. And that's what Katie was just saying is going to be covered in the customizing adaptive practice session. So I'm going to show you several ways to access adaptive practice depending on if you're assigning through a Flexbook 2.0 lesson or if you're just wanting a standalone modality at CK-12 practice. But first, let's get everybody situated with how it works. So this is a screen that students will see when they first click on practice, and it explains that our system is set up to challenge students to answer 10 questions correctly. Students will see this at the top of their practice. It'll say, get in the game, get 10 answers to complete your practice goal. Our system meets students where they are. With 3 levels of questions, easy, medium, and hard, the system will match the student's level and will gradually increase or decrease difficulty depending on how students are performing. This means a student who is struggling may hit a goal of 10 correct with all easy questions, and a student who is more advanced would have more of a mix of levels. For teachers, this ensures that each student is progressively and appropriately challenged while maintaining a clear record of each student's level of understanding. Having questions that adapt to students' needs is awesome, but CK-12 takes it to the next level by making content recommendations in the moment. If a student is struggling, CK-12 will intervene by recommending helpful resources like reads and videos. And I think this is really the magic to our system. If you're like me, and I used to be teaching in a classroom with 5 or 6 classes a day, 30 students in each class, it can be difficult to differentiate for all students in the moment. But our system is going to do the heavy lifting for you, and it's going to ensure that students are being appropriately challenged and supported. Okay, this is a sample practice screen for the concept adding and subtracting money. That's a very expensive French fry and hot dog, but this is what we're working with today. All right, so I've got these labeled for you so you can kind of get the lay of the land here. The first thing that's labeled, this is the progress bar that displays the number of questions answered correctly. You can see that our system has already set the goal of getting 10 correct. Like I said, this is a system requirement. This cannot be changed by the teacher or the student. The goal is always to get 10 correct. Next, you see the skill level meter. This is going to increase or decrease based on a student's correct and incorrect answers. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. We have all different question types that appear in practice. These could include multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, and select all that apply. Sometimes we have images like the ones on the screen that are included in some questions. We have hints available at the bottom left during practice for most of our concepts. These often appear as text, or for our lower grade levels, there's sometimes even a short video that's used as a hint. There's also a scratch pad that's available for all students if they need to use their mouse or a stylus to solve a problem. And then improve this question, that's just your place to report any issue that you might see with a question or an answer. That just goes to the CK-12 staff. All right, so when a student is working, they can press that Stop Now button on adaptive practice to see this report. If you are a teacher who has assigned this practice to your student, you will have access to the same report when an assignment is turned in. You can see if the student met the goal of getting 10 correct, which would be 100%. Here you see that only 7 questions were completed and submitted. That's why it says 70. That's 7 out of 10. Other information that you can see at the top there includes the best streak and time spent. An extremely helpful indicator of the student's understanding of a concept is the skill meter, which shows student progress from beginning to mastery. If you want more information about the skill meter, you can click the info icon or press learn more in that pop-up box to get a help desk article that will explain all of those levels a little more thoroughly. One other thing that you see on the screen is that we have recommendations for how to continue exploring this concept. For instance, our intelligent system says that students who watch this video score an 87% or higher on the practice. If you were to keep scrolling down this report, you would see each question, its easy, medium, or hard label, and the exact answer the students typed or selected. And I'll show you what that looks like later on in our reports section. After viewing this report, students always have the option to keep practicing. This is designed to start and stop at any time. They can even continue beyond 10 correct. Remember, this is a practice system, so we just encourage students to keep drilling away at it as they need to. All right, let's put this all together and see what it looks like on our site. So I'm going to share my screen, and we will go to ck12.org and look at this live. Okay, you guys are all seeing my screen right now, and there's several different ways to access adaptive practice, and I'm going to show you a couple of them. On our site, one of the buttons that I really like up here, menu options, is the Explore menu option. And on this drop down, you get quick access to a lot of our offerings. And I'm going to go into the top one that says FlexBooks 2.0 right now. And this still gives you a little bit of information about FlexBooks 2.0. And then down at the bottom, you can choose one of the CK-12 FlexBook 2.0 books. I am going to go into the Interactive Physics for High School book. So if you were on our webinar this morning, Carl walked you through how to get started with our FlexBooks. I'm just going in here to show you what's going on with the assignments. Let me expand a chapter here. So we are in the chapter of motion in one dimension. And I'm going to pick a section, acceleration due to gravity. Okay, here we're at the start page where I'm going to press start, but I can also find other ways to learn with these related modalities, simulations, PLIX, real world activities, and study guides. And here's a video over here. We'll be talking a lot about that these next couple of weeks. When I start, I'm presented with the lesson for acceleration due to gravity. And so our hope is that students are going to take some time to work their way through the lesson. We're really excited to have the interactive pieces. We have a Sims here, a simulation that can be launched straight from this page. But when students are ready, they can come over here and view practice, okay? I'm in a demo account, which is a teacher account. So I see the button preview, but students will see a start button here, okay? Either way, it's going to take us through the same walkthrough. So when you're wanting to check out our adaptive practice, you can always preview what you'd be assigning for the students. So you'll see that our intelligence system thinks it's going to take about 8 minutes for a student to complete this practice, getting that 10 correct. And when I press preview, it's going to open up to the window that I just walked you through. And this all looks very intimidating, so forgive me, I'm not going to take much time looking at these answers. I'm just going to do some clicking. But once again, you can see that I'm at 0 out of 10 correct. My skill level is yet to be determined. We have no information yet to start with a skill level meter. I'm going to select, what do you guys think? 9.2, I missed it. It suggests trying the scratch pad as a tool. I'm going to go to the next question, and let's check out that scratch pad. This is what it looks like. You can have students, work on some math figures, draw angles, geometrical shapes, whatever will help them answer a problem. So that scratch pad is there to help them out, and I can close out of this. Getting a hint. A falling object will increase speed the closer it gets to Earth. Again, there's usually a variety of hints. I can say, all right, got it, and close out of that hint. And I'm going to answer another question. Unfortunately, incorrectly, but we still give positive messages. Dust yourself off and try again. So I'm going to go next. Plot spoiler, I'm going to get this one wrong. And I'm also planning on missing this one. Now, at this point, the system is probably going to intervene as promised. I just guessed on some questions, and our system realized that was happening, and it said, whoa, slow down. We recommend that you go back to the read on this concept. Maybe you should try the cliff diver simulation that will help you understand what's going on with acceleration due to gravity, or we have a video. I'm in a lot of classrooms using CK-12, and I actively see this working in a class where the teacher has assigned adaptive practice and can walk around and just, monitor and help students as they have questions. But our system is giving them options. So the student who wants to continue reading can do that, or the student who wants to move on to a video is able to do that as well. So again, lots of great options here. I can return to practice. My skill level, I'm still just beginning because I haven't answered anything correct. That would start moving as I would progress. I'm going to go ahead and stop for now because you don't want me to continue because it's a painful demonstration of my knowledge of physics. This is what the end report would look like for a student. Again, it shows I didn't answer anything correct, so that's 0. My best streak is 0. I was in there for 3 minutes. My skill level is at beginning. It says the time that I last practiced, because remember, I can go into this in an hour when this webinar is over and I feel like I need to brush up. I could keep practicing. And then I was served up 3 easy questions and 1 medium question. So you'll be able to see the breakdown for how that works. And then you can see exactly what the student answered and missed and what was correct. So students will be able to see this report, and if you have assigned this to them as a teacher, you'll be able to see it as well. That download worksheet option is just available for you as a teacher. So I'm going to close out of that, and that's what the practice experience is going to look like from a Flexbook 2.0 lesson. It's already attached in there to all of our Flexbook 2.0. Katie, in the more advanced session for adaptive practice, is going to talk about customizing and how you can use our questions to create quizzes and do other things, kind of like how we've done for our summer program. You guys are taking quizzes. That's the next level beyond adaptive practice. But just using our system and our questions, I'm going to go back to the home page, and a handy trick is when you press the logo in the upper left corner of the screen, you can usually end up back at the home page. So one other way to get to the practice tool, say you are not currently using a Flexbook 2.0, but you want to be able to assign practice to your classes. We've got a bunch of different ways to do it, but one thing that I still like, I like these explore circles here in the middle of the home page. These will take you to the landing page for the simulations, the PLIX, and the adaptive practice. So I'm going to press adaptive practice, and this is the same page or the same area that you would ultimately end up at if you use ck12.org/practice. And here I'm browsing by subject. So I could once again say, let's look at the physics practice. And you can see it's just a different view. These are the same chapters and concepts that were in my Flexbook 2.0, but I'm viewing them a little bit differently. Let's go down to motion in 2 dimensions. Something I want to point out for you all who've been using our system quite a bit, you can see this number off to the right side, 20%, 50%, 70%. That is showing that I've already started these practices, and that is my current score. So for like projectile motion, if I click back into that, which again, this is probably more relevant for students who are doing the practice more than a teacher view, but my practice goal, I'm only halfway there, so I can keep practicing and try to up my streak and my skill level. You can see that I last accessed this over a year ago, but I can always come back and keep practicing. You as a teacher, if you prefer to browse this way and you think, hey, I'm a let's go geometry teacher, you can see all of the adaptive practice that we have to offer by looking through our browse menu here. And you can click on any of these and you could assign it to your class. You can customize it, which again, Katie will be talking about in the advanced webinar, or you could download the worksheet. So 2 ways to access: through the Flexbook and through the home page. So why don't I come up for air here for a second and check in with the team. And Katie, why don't you tell me what kinds of questions have been coming in?
Sure, Lindsay. We had a couple of questions about certified educator assignments. I'm just going to toss this out here first. You'll see all assignments for the class assigned to you. You only need to complete the meshing ones for your particular session. We make all of them available to you, but we're only going to grade based on the ones that you needed to complete, so don't worry about that. We have a question here that's asking, when the students try again, will the score and reports be the first try, the best try, or kind of how does that work? It's actually the latest try that they turn in. So for practice, since their score keeps going up, it will be their best try. When we talk about quizzes, it'll be the latest one, but they will get a notice that they are turning in a greater or like a score that's better or worse than the last one. So they'll know that they have that option. So it reports the latest one, which in the case of practice is the best. And then we had a couple of questions on one here about, does spelling matter, capitalization, can students see individual short answer responses and add or subtract points, kind of what can teachers see? So As Lindsay was showing you the scratch pad and hints, that is not currently reported to a teacher. That's just there for the student to work with. You can see in those reports, and I think Lindsay's showed you a bit kind of there, but if you scroll down and we talk about those some more, which we will be doing, you'll see the actual answer choices. You can't change the score within CK-12, but if you export that, you could always adjust that score accordingly. And then we had one last question, I think, in here. Does CK-12 have a platform to let educators work together to collaborate, connect, and build? So in terms of the kind of classes and quizzes that we're working off of, those ones, you have the option to share that quiz with someone else if you've used it, and they could assign that. And you can, in our Flexbook sessions, we talk a little bit about kind of practices for working together. So hopefully that took care of those ones. I think with that, we'll jump right into the class piece. So let me steal this screen back and share. And so, as I said, we're going to talk about classes. So you are all a part of a CK-12 class for the summer or winter if you guys are in the Southern Hemisphere. So you're getting the same experience a student would be in joining a class, accessing shared resources, completing assignments, and viewing reports. You have a slightly different view in terms of the Flexbook because you are a teacher as well. So just know that piece, but the whole assignment workflow is the same as a student. You have choices when choosing how you want to assign your work to students. So CK-12 classes, which we're talking about here, is a great option if you're not using an integrated learning management system. This option is, of course, free and available for everyone to use. But if your school or district is using Canvas, Google Classroom, or Schoology, you should create your classes there. You can assign work directly within or to those platforms, and you'll access student reports there as well. We have a few learning management breakout sessions this summer that explicitly show you how to assign work through those systems. So this section is going to focus exclusively on CK-12 classes, but please note that if you are using one of those, you do not need to create a class.
All right, thank you for explaining that. I think this discussion of CK-12 classes is going to be really useful for everybody because you guys are all students in our Certified Educator class this summer. So this might answer some questions you guys are having about navigating the site. And then certainly for those of you who choose to use this with your own classes next school year, you will understand how to navigate. So I am once again at the homepage, and there's a couple of different ways to access classes. This is your teacher dashboard or your student dashboard, depending on what kind of account you have. And you'll notice that it shows some recently viewed practice, some things that are trending, some videos. But this is one place where I can access classes. I can go to classes over here, and it says that I have 18 classes. This page, I would probably just go up to the classes menu option because this is the page that appears when I press that. The CEP July 2019 class is one of the classes we have going on for the summer. But to demo, I will usually use the summer 2019 class, which is one that we've populated with interns. But you can see a bunch of different classes that we have in this demo account. But let's say that you are wanting to create your first class. You can press this plus sign over here, and you have the option to create a class or to join a class. So many of you joined our summer class using this join a class option, but now I'm going to show you how to create a class. The first thing that you're going to want to do is give your class a name. So let's call this, it's populating demo, not February, let's call this demo July 8, 2019. I can add an optional class description. I can select a subject. We'll call it spelling. And you have a few options to choose a theme for your class. I kind of like this blue-purple one. And then you're able to create a class. So you guys might want to spend a little more time with your titles and your descriptions before you create the class. It is now over here in my class option. and it says that I have no members yet. Notice that it immediately showed me a class code, and this will appear a couple of different places as well, but there's a class code for you. And I can add some students. So let's press the Add Students button. This pop-up is giving me a few different options to add students, and this is really just your preference as a teacher. If you have students' email addresses, you're welcome to invite them by email. If you need to add students without email, which is a case for a lot of people, you could create accounts for the students if you needed to. You can also, I'm going to come back up here to add students. You can find existing students. If you're teaching in a situation where you have similar students year after year, you can pull some students from a class you've used before. You can also upload class roster, which requires a little bit of a CK-12 support assist if you're wanting to do it that way. But let me show you the invite by email. This is a template that you can use that says, I'd like you to join my class. And it gives a few instructions telling them to create an account and to join the class, enter the class code. You can also join by using this link. So a couple different ways for adding students into a class. Something I wanted to let you guys know as you're wrapping your head around it, it's up to you how you would set up classes in CK-12. Some people might do, if you're teaching 5 classes in a high school, you might have hour 1, hour 2, hour 3. If you're in an elementary situation, you might set up your math class and your science class separately if you wanted to do that. This is also a place where you could differentiate, and you could set up the red group and the blue group within the same class if you're wanting to give them different assignments, because a class on CK-12 would all receive the same assignments. So if you want to give different assignments, you would have to create separate classes. Okay, I'm going to get out of this class because it's not very interesting since I just created it. But let's look at the summer 2019 class, where we have some CK-12 interns who populated some work for us. When I clicked in, I can just see, that these folks all joined 6 days ago. I have options on the left to view assignments and to see reports. And I'm going to show you that in a few minutes, so I'm not going to click into that yet. We have a Q&A option in our classes, which would allow you to have a discussion where you could post a question and have students answer it as like a discussion forum. This is something that some teachers really like and they enable. This is also something that you can turn off if you don't want to have that kind of discussion in a CK-12 class. Shared resources, this is where in our course class this summer, you guys are finding the program Flexbook. Teachers are the only people who can share a resource. So if you are wanting to, put the syllabus, put some other resources, some handouts that you have that you want to put in the CK-12 class just for people to be able to see, this is a great place to do that. You can also see the members of the class. We have a few people who joined with a teacher account. These folks joined with a student account. I wanted to point out here that you have an option within your class to add somebody as a co-teacher. So if I wanted to make Vera a co-teacher in my class so that she could see reports and assignments, I did that with just a click of a button here. So for you guys who work with co-teachers who need to be able to see reports, that would be helpful. And then your settings is where you will control things like email notifications. You also find that class code, and you have the option for the Q&A settings or even to delete a class as well. So I think that's all I want to show you about this right now, because then we're launching into assignments and reports. So we'll go into these tabs in more detail in just a minute. So let's check with the team on Q&A.
So Lindsay, maybe you could go back out to the main class page and show them how to archive that demo class that you just did by clicking on the 3 buttons on the right of the demo class at the top right. So we had a couple people that said, can you delete a class? You can't delete that class, but you can hide that from your dashboard, and students could do the same for any of their work or any classes that they are in. So That would, if she clicks that, she would hide it from her dashboard. It no longer shows up as one of her primary classes, so it's not kind of in that piece. And then she could always see, instead of the current classes, she could the filter right above that, filter and go to any hidden classes from the past. So that's just one thing to note as you go through. We've had a bunch of questions that have come in that relate to uploading a CSV file or rosters from Schoology or classes from Google Classroom. I want to reiterate once more, if you use an integrated learning management system, such as Google Classroom, Canvas, or Schoology, you should not create separate CK-12 classes. So there's no need to pull that class information from any of those platforms. You're only going to use CK-12 classes if you don't use one of those other platforms. This shows you what you're doing this summer within our system, but if you're using those, please, please, please stay within there to make your assignments and see your student progress. If you are trying to use Google Classroom or Schoology or Canvas, the LMS Breakout Sessions walk you through that. You can register for those on our registration page. And if you can't make those particular times because they're not core webinars, you're always welcome to check out our YouTube channel, and we will post those recordings so you can go there. Our Certified Educator Program book has those resource pages just like this session. So please just, the class component of this one little portion in this webinar where Lindsay was talking about CK-12 classes is just for CK-12. All of the other stuff is relevant across platforms. So just keep that in mind as you go. So I think with that, we're going to jump into assignments so that we can see what we're doing, and you guys can kind of see the assignments both within CK-12 as well as what those would be. We also, I guess it sounds like before I switch over, just note that some of you guys seem to be posting questions in the chat window. It's really hard for us to track those questions because there's so much conversation going on. So if you have questions for us that you want us to answer, please make sure you post them in Q&A. So just keep that in mind. 1 second, I'm gonna just share this option and we are gonna go through here. So let me swap over, share my screen. And so we just talked about classes versus learning management systems. Lindsay did a live demo, and now we are going to talk about assignments and reports. So across our site, you're going to see options to share resources and to assign resources. So for example, within this Flexbook 2.0 lesson on continental drift, you have the option to assign to class, to share, or to share to class. When you click on the assign to class from the sidebar or the top menu, this box will pop up. This allows you to assign to CK-12 or to Google Classroom. That is the only workflow that will allow you to see reports within Google Classroom, so just note that. Also, it's a little bit different for Canvas and Schoology. You have to assign from within those platforms. Now, when you create an assignment, this means that students' grades are going to be passed back to you and that you as the teacher will be able to see the student reports. If you press share, that middle one gives you the share this resource option. This shares that link as a resource to Google Classroom. It does not give you reports on it. Or you could share it to one of your social networks or email it to someone else if you want to share that way. The last option, that share to class option, adds that resource to the shared resource section of a class, just like how we shared the Flexbook for this program. So in summary, while all of our resources have a unique URL, so you could just copy that URL and share it, to copy, paste, and share it with others. Or you can use that green share plane. When you want to see student reports, you do need to use the assign option for Modalities.
Thanks for explaining that. So your screen that you were just showing shows how to assign a lesson from a Flexbook 2.0. But I also want to show everyone how they can assign individual modalities as well, such as our Plix simulations, videos, and real-world applications, separate from a Flexbook. One option is to use the search bar at the top of the home page. If you guys have never noticed, we do have a search bar at the top of the home page, and you can type in a concept that you're teaching in class. In this case, you can see that I typed in continental drift, and I'm seeing all of the search results for that. You can click on that top concept page to access different modalities, Or you can use our filter options to see a certain type of modality. If I know that I want to find a video, if I know that I want to find a real world application, that's all a filter option. Another way to find individual modalities is to use the explore circles on the home page. These can take you to the browse pages specific to PLIX, simulations, and adaptive practice. And that's what I went to earlier to show you the adaptive practice browse page. Okay, so you can search, you can use the explore circles, but then once you are in our different modalities, you're going to see some trends here about how you would go about assigning them. For our interactives, our PLIX and our simulations, you're going to see an orange button at the top that says assign to class. And so you would press that and it will give you the option to assign to a CK-12 class or Google Classroom. If you are looking to assign a standalone read or a video or a real-world application, you can do so on the left menu, like this read on angles, or this is a video that's on earthquakes, or this is a real-world application called Keep Your Spit to Yourself. These are all assigned the same way, and they all report the same way. Notice that on all three of these, there's also a practice little widget up at the top, and that's another place that you would be able to assign practice if you encountered that.
So I'm going to take just a second to talk about how these modalities report information back to our system or to your integrated learning management system. Please do not be intimidated by this chart on this page or the next slide that I'm going to cover. They're both included in the session resource page, so you can reference them at any time. You just want to quickly go through them. Your practice, as Lindsay said earlier, is based on a score of 10 correct. They can turn that in at any point in time and work their way forward up until the due date. Quizzes, which we'll talk about more in our customizing session, are based on a true percentage assessment out of 100%. And then reads, videos, real-world applications, our interactives are all full or no credit. So in CK-12, they get a check mark, and in a learning management system, whatever score you set for that, they would have 0 or that full score when they submit it. And the same is true for adaptive practice and quizzes. If you set a score or point value, it would be a percentage of that point value chosen. Now, FlexBooks 2.0 is a little bit different. Because when you assign FlexBooks 2.0 reads that have attached practice, we're not giving a separate check mark for that read. We're just giving the percentage for the practice. And the same if you swap out practice for a quiz. It would be like kind of grading for the quiz itself. It's only if the Flexbook has no attached practice. Let's say you make a brand new FlexBook 2.0 and you assign just that lesson, then you get that full or no credit score. But we don't report a separate read score or a separate lesson score in addition to the practice or quiz for FlexBooks.
Okay, I'm going to switch back over to that summer 2019 class we were looking at that the interns populated for us, and show you a little bit more about the assignments and report options here in your menu. When I click on assignments, this number here that says 9 of 96 means that I have 9 active assignments right now, and that's what you're seeing listed for July 2019. You can see a creation date. These were all set up on June 25th. You can see a start date of that's when we open them up for students to be able to start turning in their work. And then you can see the due date that we had of July 5th and that these are assigned. 96 over here shows the available assignments, where we keep all of the different assignments, anything that you've assigned in the past. So this is just some random things that we've done in demos. They're available if you want to quickly access them again and assign. So if you're looking to assign the same thing to multiple classes, year over year, even within your school day, it's easy to do that. If you click into any of these individual assignments, you have the option to edit them. You've got your start date, your due date. We do give you a toggle option if you want to show correct answers. Your info icon here says that students will have the option to view correct answers after they answer each question. You can toggle that on or off. If you want them to be able to see the correct answers, then that's awesome. If you prefer that you wait until the due date passes for them to see the correct answers, you're able to turn that off. That's sort of what I want to show you in assignments here. You can also create an assignment from this button, and Katie's going to talk a little bit about that in her next session. But let's look at reports. If you have not checked out CK-12 reports recently, we have done some fantastic updates to it. This is the initial view that you're taken to when you click on reports for a class. And you can see that we have implemented a heat map, which at a glance shows you how students are progressing. The green is great. We love green. This red dash means that it's just not completed yet. And then the shadings that are closer to the orange or the red, or even getting in the yellow zone, that shows you that students are going to need perhaps a little more attention. And looking at this, we have a link over here on the right that says how to read reports. And this is really helpful for you to review the first time that you access them. Diagrams that we've got the due date, the assignment name, the modality type, and then the score status. It has a version of that chart Katie was just talking you through that says how we report a score to the system. And then it talks to you about what the percentages correlate to in the way of colors for your heat map. If you are not a fan of the heat map, you have the option to turn it off if you prefer to look at just the score without any color coding. Some other really neat things about this view is that if I wanted to see how Ryan's doing, I'm going to look at Ryan, and I can scroll down and I can quickly see, again, a little slightly different view than what's going on up here about how he's doing with his progress, okay? If I select a cell, if I want to see on this 88% on this quiz what he answered, I'm now looking at the quiz report. Shows that he got 7 out of 8 correct. His best streak was 4. He didn't skip any, and he spent 2.3 minutes on it. And he submitted it on June 26th. And I can scroll down and I can see the exact question that Ryan missed on that quiz, which is awesome. For practice, this is a version of that report that I was showing you earlier that shows up at the end screen. If you've assigned this to your students, you as a teacher can see all of the questions that were attempted. There were 11 questions attempted, 2 easy, 1 medium, and then he advanced to the hard questions because he was doing really well. And again, you can see what the questions are, what he typed in for what he missed. If you need to see additional details like the skill level or the time spent, I can always get even more granular and open up the full report, and it will show me the mastery that we think he has mastered this concept, and he spent only 5 minutes on it. So this time indicator is really useful for teachers when you're trying to understand what's going on with students. If they're really not understanding or really understanding, that time spent is a huge one. I think you'll find as you navigate through this report, it's pretty simple as far as if I want to see a student, I click on the student, want to know more about the report, click on that. I also wanted to say that for those of you who use another gradebook system, we have the ability to export a CSV file. This can also be converted to an Excel spreadsheet if that's lingo you're more familiar with, but a lot of gradebooks allow you to upload a CSV file if that helps you as well. Reports in this view is available on CK-12 classes, and it's coming soon to our other LMSs of Canvas and Schoology soon. So why don't we stop there and check in again on questions.
So we have, I know we're nearing that hour mark, so I'm going to answer a couple questions verbally, and then we're going to do some wrap up, and then we'll go back into a couple of the more in-detailed questions that are coming in. As Lindsay just said, these class reports will be available soon within Google Classroom and Schoology and Canvas, so you will have access to this, even if you're not seeing it today. If you join those sessions, Felix will demo what that looks like, but just know that it's coming imminently. We had a question about assignments after the due date. Students can turn in practice up to the due date. If they haven't turned in any score before that, they have one shot to turn it in. None of these interns did their work late, so there's not a little clock icon that indicates it's late, but you will see that if they submitted it, but they get one shot if they haven't submitted any score after the due date. So just know that that piece is there. And then there was a question about assigning individually, but that it showed to the class. So in CK-12, you can't select individual students. You can select individual modalities to assign to students. If you are using something like Google Classroom, you can assign to that class and then deselect students. So we usually recommend, if you're using CK-12 and you need to differentiate, that you create separate groups or separate classes within CK-12 where you can assign different components to that piece. So I think we have some bigger questions that are in there that are coming in. So I'm gonna steal the screen back for a minute, and I'm gonna do a little bit of wrap up in case people wanna bounce out, and then we will go into some more in-depth components. So thank you to everyone who joined us today. And as I just said, we'll stay on after this piece. Now that you've learned the basics of adaptive practice and assignments, especially since some of you guys, your biggest questions are on quizzes. One of the questions is, what's the difference between quiz versus practice? We definitely recommend you join us for our customizing practice and assignment session. It's offered this Wednesday and then again next week. In it, we'll talk about using our bank of 150,000 questions and customizing them into quizzes, or writing your own questions and seeing insights. And we'll discuss our math editor and embedding those questions in line within your lessons. I also recommend, based on the number of questions we've gotten on Google Classroom and Canvas and Schoology, that if you use one of those, you join us for our LMS Breakout Sessions this summer, or watch one of those recordings if you can't make that. These sessions run about 30 minutes for the core content, and then we stay on for questions, and they don't count towards the required 5 live sessions for certification. If you have never scrolled to the bottom of the Certified Educator page to see the Alumni in Action session, I encourage you to watch these videos. The first video is of Certified Educator Nathaniel Eugene and the inventive ways he uses adaptive practice with his math classes, where they use a smartboard and have friendly competitions amongst the students. Another video highlights the way Certified Educator Dave Wessel is using Schoology to assign modalities in his science classroom. So that one might also be useful for many of you. Now that you've completed your live participation in this session, you will want to visit the Getting Started with Adaptive Practice section of the program Flexbook and submit the assignment. Please, please, please preview all of the questions we're going to ask in the quiz. Make sure you're comfortable with them. And then once you start your quiz, you do need to complete that in one sitting. That's why we put the text of those questions in the Flexbook. However, if for some reason you wanted to retake it, you are welcome to do so. And as we said, we are testing out new question types, so don't worry if your score is a little off and you think your answer is valid. We can see those questions and give you credit for sure. Don't forget to return to the lesson page and press the Turn In button to submit your work when you are done. Within the program Flexbook, you'll also see a link to our YouTube page if you need to rewatch a session. We record every webinar we're doing this summer, and we'll add each one to the Certified Educator Program 2019 playlist. You can expect the most recent video to be posted within about 24 hours. We also encourage you to answer a short survey to give us feedback on the content and presentation of our sessions, as we're always looking to improve your experience. You'll find a Give Feedback button on every session page, or you can use this direct link, tinyurl.com/CK12feedback2019 right now, or whenever you want if you'd like to submit the survey. We'll post this in the chat window for everyone. Now, don't forget to let your social networks know about CK-12 and your participation in our summer program. We're on all of the socials, including Facebook as @CK12 Foundation. For all of you Twitter users out there, you can use the hashtag CK12 Certified to tell others about your professional development. And so with that, I want to say thank you for joining us today. We're going to assure you that we will continue to support you through our whole team of people here. You can send us an email at any time to jumpstart@ck12.org. And with that, we're going to wrap up our core programming. I know we still have questions in Q&A, so we will stay on and answer those, but if you need to leave, you are more than welcome to do so. So Lindsay, do you have any questions to start with?
Oh, where to start? Since we were just talking about YouTube, a couple of questions were asking, can we access YouTube recordings for sessions that we did not sign up for? And absolutely, we're going to upload every session to our YouTube page, and it's all part of a playlist that's linked in the program book. And so you can watch any and every recording you would like. Somebody said, can we watch recordings instead of live sessions, or are they just refreshing ourselves on the content? Part of the program requirements is that you do join us live for at least 5 sessions. So this counts as one of them. Congratulations. If you have made it through the hour, again, Zoom automatically records your attendance. And so we're able to see how long participants were in our webinar. If you join 2 minutes late, it's not going to be a problem. If you want credit for 5 webinar sessions and you only attended 5 minutes on each one, we're going to have an issue. So just do your best to join us for 5 live webinars to be in there for the full hour. Somebody was asking about how do you know which sessions count towards certification or not. Those are clearly labeled on the registration page. We have the core live webinar sessions, and then we have the LMS breakout sessions, which do not. They are shorter. And we have some case study sessions, which I think are going to be really beneficial, but they're also shorter in nature and do not count toward the live sessions, but they're marked on the registration page. Let me kick it over to Katie. We'll just tag team these questions.
We have a question about at-grade labeling for different modalities. Some of our text especially, we maybe launched an intermediate level book or a standard book as well as a basic or an advanced book. So text coming from the regular intermediate or at-grade book would be labeled at grade, and some other ones would be labeled basic or advanced according, just to give you an idea of maybe what resource that might be coming from. We also had a question, maybe I'll answer just briefly, the question about quiz versus practice options. That will be covered a little more in our next session on customizing. Practice is really, the heart of it is to get students to kind of work their way through a concept, meet them at their level of learning, and understand where they're going next and continue to challenge them from that point. Quizzes are really kind of true assessments with fixed questions for everyone. And so when you get into a quiz, your options include limiting the time that students spend on it, removing the hint option. You can change the question order for different students. So there's a bunch of different options, and we encourage you to join us for that customizing session to really drill down into that piece.
Oh no, everybody's panicking now about, like, I joined a few minutes late. Are you going to give me credit? Like I said, we need to see 5 live session, your attendance for 5 live sessions, which should equal about 5 hours of time. If that averages out to close to that 5 hours, there's no issue. We have lots of formulas that do all that for us. So if it shows that you have 2 hours of attendance for the 5 sessions, then that's an issue. So, again, if you have to duck out 10 minutes early or you join us 10 minutes late, that's not reason for panic. Just you want to be close to that 5 hours of seat time for 5 live sessions.
So one of the questions that came in earlier was, when and why would you use the 3 different methods, share versus assign versus share to class? The general share, which just kind of shares something externally to post on Twitter or Facebook or social option, I would say is if you're trying to kind of just highlight something cool resource you found with other users, or you're an active social poster. That's also if you wanted to kind of use the same option for Google Classroom, like sharing to class within CK-12. In this case, we share the entire Certified Educator Program Flexbook to your class, so you have that as a resource, but we assign individual sections so that you have to do work at that section or modality level. And that's kind of the difference between assign versus share to class. One is, here's a great resource for you guys to use, and any work that you want to see reports for, you definitely want to assign specifically.
A couple of people are having questions about how to access the assignment for this session. So under CK-12 classes, you guys should have all joined the CEP July 2019. Our book is listed under shared resources. And when you select that, you are taken to the book overview page. So you all need to watch the on-demand session as soon as you can. That's the one you can watch on your own time. So all of the live sessions are listed here. Most of you will only be doing 5 of these. We put them all in the book. So all of you will likely be leaving assignments on the table and not completing them. And that's perfectly fine. We just need to see that you have completed the 5 assignments that match the 5 live webinar attendance, or more if you want to do more. So today's session was on getting started with CK-12 adaptive practice and assignments. So you would select that. Scrolling down, these are the questions that you are going to be asked in your quiz, which again is what we call the assignment. So you want to review all of these questions and make sure that you're comfortable answering them. You can also click on this link to be taken to the YouTube playlist, which will have all of the videos for our program. You can give us the feedback form. We love feedback for that survey. There's some other useful links. But again, when you are ready, when you can answer all these questions and are ready to sit down and start the quiz, you press Start Quiz, and you are off and running. Like we said earlier, that the thing you need to remember is that we don't give you the option right now to pause the quiz. And if you kind of wait too long in between responses, the system will time out. So just make sure that you're prepared. You might copy and paste this into a document and answer the questions offline, and then be prepared to put them into the quiz once you get that started.
So we have 2 questions about assigning pieces within here. So one is assigning stuff within Flexbooks. So right now, Lindsay has at the top, this is currently assigned to you, turn it in. If it was content that hadn't been assigned, you as a teacher would see a bar at the top that gives you the option to assign that content within the Flexbook. So that's pretty straightforward. If she picks a different book, she can show you what that looks like. And I really kind of recommend the other piece that we'll have her go into. So here she can go into a particular topic. She can click Start. And then at the top, she can assign that to her class. So that's kind of the best option for assigning from Flexbooks for our newest Flexbooks. We had a request to go over the assignment module. So I would probably recommend that for the most part, you're assigning from within a book or from within those modalities. The assignment module within that class is really to kind of see what you have assigned or what's due when, or maybe adjust it. So Lindsay can kind of open that up one more chance. There's the report. But if she goes into the assignment module, she can just give you a look at that again and maybe walk through that for a minute.
Yeah, this is just showing you that I have 9 active assignments. These are the ones that I have right now for July. This is the creation date, start date, and due date. So these have been assigned to students in this class. The available assignments class tab shows that there are 96 assignments that I've created under my account at some point. And so I can always quickly access those again to assign to multiple classes. Like I said, if you're doing multiple classes during the same day or year after year, this option makes it easier. Create an assignment, I mean, it's there, but there's a lot of other ways to assign on our site that we've shown you today that you might prefer to use.
And that, just a note, if you're creating assignments from within a CK-12 class, your only options are quizzes or practice. It doesn't give you the full range. So just know that piece. I will talk briefly about that in the customizing session as well. So it looks like we have a question about Classroom. Can you see the heat report in CK-12? That class level is coming soon to our learning management systems, whether that's Google Classroom, Schoology, or Canvas. Those will all be coming shortly, so you will be able to see those soon. And then we have a question about if the quiz assignment times out for these sessions, is it the same result, not being able to progress with other sessions? You should be able to open that quiz up and re-complete any components for it, and then but they're not chronological, so you could work on them at any point in time. It won't kind of mess you up for any other sessions. So I think with that, we've cleared out our queue. So if you have any questions, feel free to email us at Jumpstart, and we will go through, and we hope to see you on our next webinar.